Hi, everyone, and happy Monday. Welcome to the Northern Kentucky Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Brookbank. Today, we are joined by one of our Grow NKY partners, the Learning Grove. Shannon Starkey-Taylor, the CEO of the Learning Grove, is here to talk with us about why early childhood education is so essential to our community. Thank you to our podcast sponsors, CVG, our title sponsor, C-Crew Consulting, our digital sponsor, and our episode sponsors, Haran and Heartland Bank. Before we get to that interview, I want to talk to you guys about a few upcoming events that we have on the calendar for June. Northern Kentucky United will be held on June 2nd to thank state lawmakers for their support and to showcase Northern Kentucky's successes and promote new initiatives to enhance our region's economic progress and contribution to the Commonwealth. The Women's Initiative Professional Series returns, and this summer's event is Don't Just Know Your Value, Live Your Value. That will be on Tuesday, June 7th. More details will be coming for that event later this month, so keep your eyes open and tuned into our social media pages. The Idea Summit, Building an Inclusive Community, the Business Case for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, powered by Fifth Third Bank, will be on Friday, June 10th. The Idea Summit will address removing barriers to employment, effective talent attraction and retention strategies, the importance of an inclusive workplace culture, and building a plan for supplier diversity. Don't forget to visit nkychamber.com/events to register for all of those upcoming events and learn more about the other events I haven't gotten to highlight. Now, let's meet our members of the week, and I will join you guys back here with Shannon.
CVG Airport is the lowest fare airport in the tri-state region with 54 nonstop flights and direct international service to 7 destinations, including Paris, France, and now home to both DHL's and Amazon's global cargo hubs. The airport is furthering its position as leader in aviation and is deeply committed to being an economic driver for the community. You can learn more and start your next adventure at cvgairport.com.
Ranking on Google Search and Maps is easy to understand, but hard to do. It requires constant effort and attention, uploading new photos, responding to Google reviews, writing weekly posts, and checking suggested updates. Google listing optimization takes experience and time, and there are no shortcuts. C-Crew gives your Google My Business account the steady, consistent attention it needs to be effective, optimizing, updating, and expanding critical content every single week. From local retail stores to large regional networks, C-Crew generates content, establishes benchmarks, and creates dramatic, measurable increases in engagement. So what can C-Crew do for your business? More calls, more clicks, more clients.
Congratulations to our members of the week. You can learn more about these businesses by following the Northern Kentucky Chamber on social media, where we will highlight one of these businesses each day. Now, let's meet our members of the week. Kristen Getze is a coach, speaker, and John Maxwell leadership trainer with a mission to empower impassioned leaders to conquer their insecurities. Goldenberg Schneider, LPA, has more than 25 years of experience serving clients in litigation and environmental, safety, and health regulatory counseling. Founded in 2009, Megacorp specializes in full truckload shipments servicing all U.S. business sectors. RAD Security is a veteran-owned and operated company that specializes in providing cybersecurity services to small and medium-sized businesses. Founded in 1971, Interim Healthcare is the nation's most experienced healthcare franchisor. Hi, everyone. I am joined by Shannon Starkey-Taylor. She is the CEO of Learning Grove. Shannon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Sarah, it's great to be here with you.
Well, tell me about Learning Grove. You guys are a great community partner in Northern Kentucky. You're a Grow NKY partner, among other things. So dive right in. What do you guys do?
Yeah, so absolutely. So we're the largest provider of high quality childcare in Northern Kentucky and in Cincinnati. We do services in childcare, but also before and after school care, family engagement, and Navigo, our college and career readiness. So we have services as far north as Sharonville and as far south as Walton, Verona, and about a medium-sized nonprofit, $16 million organization, and we serve about 5,000 children, youth, and families a year.
Yeah, that is awesome. And one of the things you guys really focus on is quality early childhood education. Why is that so essential? It's something we hear about all the time.
Well, I love that you asked that, of course. So we will never stop saying this percentage. So 90% of a child's brain forms by the time that they're 5 years old. So we are uniquely positioned as our partners in this childcare space to get in as early as possible. And sometimes, Sarah, we even refer to our teachers casually as brain architects. They have a unique position and they're with children 11 hours a day, potentially, if the parents are working. So we believe that there's the brain development shows us that there's windows of opportunity. And with childcare, we also have the opportunity to see parents at drop off and pick up, something that K through 12 educators, our partners there, don't see. So not only do we stress and have high quality learning to prepare them for kindergarten, we give parents information, materials. Even our latest is how to talk to their children about race. So early childhood, it all matters. Research shows us also social emotional development. A lot of that is forming. And we've had kindergarten teachers for years that have said, send the children to us that are ready to stay in line. They keep their hands themselves. They can make peer interactions. We'll teach them the ABCs and everything else. So to make a long story short, a lot's happening in brain development during that year. We're uniquely positioned. I will say that parents are also uniquely positioned to listen in a certain way when their children are that young. It's new for them. And the days where you could sit and talk to a neighbor over the fence for hours about what to do in parenting, or even get more time with your pediatrician, are long gone. So we're a trusted source for parents, and really involving our services as early as possible. And then finally, just early intervention. If there's issues that pop up, and about 10 to 12% of our population of children nationally have some kind of learning disability or speech and language. So let's get in early, and we can probably change the course and the trajectory for children. So those are the whys as far as early childhood.
Yeah, that is incredible. And you kind of touched on this a little bit, but what makes you guys so different than like other options in Greater Cincinnati?
Yeah, I think when it comes specifically to childcare, I did touch on social emotional development. I will jump to the side of direct services for a minute and say it's also our innovation. So we have an R&D department. We feel very blessed that our board allows us to use some of our resources. And why that's important to us is we can have teachers report to us, this is what we're struggling with, and we have a department that actually digs down deep into the research and creates products or programs to help. So what's unique about that is that we wrap around our direct services with innovation and R&D. So the latest neuroscience research, we're taking it from the Innovation Lab, which is a really silly name for just a department of what we do. And then we instill it in all of our programs, and then we share it with the larger community. We really believe, Sarah, here at Learning Grove, that a rising tide lifts all boats. So how can we do direct service, which I would call the little L for Learning Grove, and then more systemic change with the big L, and provide opportunities through our innovation. I think another area that makes us unique, and many that are probably listening to this podcast, I haven't met anybody that doesn't know Mike Hammond. So we've got a full-time vice president of policy and advocacy, and he works really closely with the chamber on those efforts. So again, with that rising tide aspect, he really is elevating the field of early childhood for all of us. And I think finally, our environments would make us unique. We're known for environments that are very family friendly. They infuse a lot of the outside in. It's very home-like, all wooden materials. We have playgrounds that are based off of Naturescape. So similar to Duvu Park and Cincinnati Nature Center, it's all materials that children can experience and get muddy and get messy. So yeah, I think those make us unique.
Yeah, we love muddy, messy children, right?
Yes, yes.
Muddy, I guess mud like equates to learning somehow from what I've heard.
It must. I know. And as a parent of 4 kids, I have to remind myself, yes, we do love muddy kids, but yeah, the more hands-on, and we have a constructivist approach, which really a lot of it is in the word constructivism. So we want them to be really experiencing materials and nature and being one with that. And if you think about how much time I mentioned children spend in childcare, we really want 50% of their day to be outside and with nature. So I think that's unique. I also would love to lift up our partners. So I think a unique feature of Learning Grove is we partner with a lot of other providers like Early Head Start. So we're an Early Head Start provider. And then we struggle and get together with other childcare providers formally and informally. We started with other agencies, the Consortium for Resilient Young Children. So years ago, children were getting kicked out of preschool, which was hard for people to even imagine. They're like, what? The little kid like that getting kicked out? And we didn't know what to do about it. So we convened many partners and said, let's create a social emotional coaching model. So that also, I mentioned, makes us unique, where a coach that has mental health and early childhood experience comes into the classroom and observes a child with difficult behaviors or helps a teacher with strategies. And then we're hoping we can keep more children retained in kindergarten and then on track for kindergarten readiness. So I think the partnerships also make us unique as opposed to a standalone childcare center that might be for profit and a chain. They are a great part of our ecosystem, but they might not be collaborating the way a nonprofit childcare provider might.
Right. And on the other side of those partnerships, in addition to your peer group, I guess you're also a Grow NKY partner.
Yes.
Does a lot with workforce, a lot with what we do in the chamber, obviously. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Sure, love to. And we're a proud partner. I know that sounds corny, but we really, really mean it. So we're plugged into quite a few, but I'm mostly plugged into the early childhood ones, Pillar 1. And right now, what we're running after is we want everybody to be aware of a House bill. So House Bill 499 was passed into law. And that's an employer childcare assistance partnership. So like, what the heck does that mean? It means that businesses can access childcare benefits for their employees. So we're really trying to push during Grow NKY Pillar 1 that childcare should be looked at almost like a benefit, like medical and health benefit. So how can our committee actually reach out to businesses and say, we can provide a whole lot of options for you? One could be as simple as we're going to make you aware of all the different childcare options, from in-home childcare called family childcare to Head Start to Learning Grove, the YMCA, et cetera. But what we're really concerned about is that this House Bill 499 does not get out to businesses to hear it, and it improves quality childcare. It supports workforce participation, so recruitment and retention. And the state will match employer childcare funds up to 100%. So I'm glancing down at my notes because it's pretty much like hot off the press. There was a lot of advocacy that was happening through the chamber and through United Ways throughout the state. So an example is if an employee is below state median income, employees will receive the full match. And then the further the family is above the median income, they would get less of the match. And then the money comes right to the childcare provider. And I mentioned that also not just large companies, so small businesses can have access. They actually have a 25% like carve out that needs to go to small businesses. And then it allows low income employees to afford childcare. I mean, that's their largest expense. And they've done research and posted a study recently, and it's staggering. I mean, for an infant, it costs $11,000 a year for infant care. Like how can we afford that if you're, the average person? So I think finally it's allowing us to have some stability for childcare. The COVID, just like for all of our industries, it's really rocked us and rocked our enrollment, even though we were an essential childcare provider during COVID. So that gives some stability with the state dollars coming directly to us and not even through the employer. So Grow Northern Kentucky Pillar 1 wants to, shout this from the rooftops, make sure every business is aware of it. And thank goodness we have the Northern Kentucky Chamber. I say it any chance I get, and at any podium or Zoom, Brent Cooper and the staff at Northern Kentucky Chamber, they get it. They know that childcare is the workforce behind the workforce, that it helps recruit and retain, that it's so necessary. It's an essential, not just during the pandemic, and that children who arrive at kindergarten not ready to learn are not on track for third grade reading, eighth grade, and for high school graduation. So yeah, if we can spread the word on that would be good. And the Grow NKY Kindergarten Readiness Committee is great with all different kinds of leaders in this space. And then we also are a part of a pillar that's focusing on college and career readiness, and E3, eCareer 3, which is a platform where employers can put their needs into a database. And those that are working with high school students could say, oh, I think I've got high school students that might want to be matched. So that's how we're involved mostly in those two pillars.
Yeah. And back to that House bill, which is such a valuable resource that people can take advantage of. Yeah. How can people get information about that, especially the business owners and the business leaders that are listening to this podcast?
Yeah, so they can get it through definitely through the state. So I saw it on the state cabinet for childcare services. They can also get it through the United Way Metro has a really good, they did a blog post, and I believe they turned it into a 1 to 2 page handout. And then we're posting it on our website. If it's not on, it'll be on later tomorrow, because we wanted to craft it to make sure the message is correct. I think the other advice I would give is be patient if you're a childcare provider or an employer, because a lot of this will come to fruition and it'll be like more information will be in the spring of next year. And then in July, they'll approve funding. So it might feel like you're hearing about it and waiting for what. But it's going to take a long time for all of us to think through how do we get this word out. So we're talking with how can we do a statewide campaign, et cetera. So they can email me as Starkey-Taylor at learning-grove.org, or check the website at the state, or any of the United Way websites should have a really nice one pager that tells like who's eligible, what's the timeline, et cetera.
Yeah, perfect. So we will make sure people can get access to that. Kind of pivoting, and you touched on this a little bit with like that idea of we're providing resources to have people better get childcare for their employees.
Yes.
When you look at the Northern Kentucky and greater Cincinnati area, are there other issues that you guys are working to overcome?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, certainly we are actively involved, as are other nonprofits, and we've looked to the Northern Kentucky Chamber and your DEI work group. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, how are we all showing up differently related to that space? And then how do we reconcile that with a population in Northern Kentucky that's predominantly white? So those are some things that are we're bumping into, but I'm happy to say that there are, in addition to the Chamber, the Northern Kentucky Nonprofits for Social Justice, there's places to go where we can struggle on this journey together. Just recovery period from COVID. I mean, it's the obvious point, but I thought I need to still mention it because some might think, I was just talking to a donor the other day, like, aren't you glad that COVID's over? And I was like, well, it's not over. We still have a couple cases, but more importantly, I don't think they were aware, because I probably have not done as good of a job as I could with this individual donor of saying, like, we're still rebuilding. Like, as a childcare entity, we're often at 88% or 90% of capacity. We're not up there yet. We're still in the 80s, the low 80s. So I think that's affecting all of us. I mean, we can't go anywhere without talking about the workforce crisis too. So an example, Sarah, just for one organization. So we're 280 full-time employees and about 30 to 40 part-time, which are seasonal before and after school care. Just in our early care and education programs alone, we have 33 openings. Wow. Staggering. So you're used to in childcare with a high turnover rate, 33 to 35%, but to put it in perspective, usually it's 10 to 15 openings at any given time, and you put a center director in and you plug the hole. I often joke, like, if it gets really bad for a while, it'll be like me and my COO covering the classroom. And trust me, nobody wants that. So just to tell you the magnitude, and at one point we're at 51% before we started some other unique strategies, one of it, which is providing free childcare for our employees. Which was a huge, so that drove it down from, not exclusively because of that, but it drove it down from 51 to around 33. So I definitely think that's a struggle. The philanthropic landscape is tricky now with different priorities. And so, hot off the press, we're a proud United Way partner. But they've needed to take a look at, have they moved the poverty needle? And so many of us as nonprofits are adjusting if we are a part of the portfolio. And was just talking with a development person this morning, a professional I think that's going to lead to us all jockeying and positioning for more philanthropic support outside of United Way, which is fine, but how can we do that collaboratively? And then I think just with a lot of those changes will lead to a lot of nonprofits partnering. So we've got more calls, and we've approached more to say, hey, how are you all doing post-COVID and with this? And is there opportunities for us to braid services together? So I think those are challenges. I mean, in addition to, and most importantly, in my opinion, to the effects, which we don't even know the full extent of it, to the children that are being raised during this COVID period, kindergartners who might have missed their whole first year. So we are seeing in our social emotional coaching program, I mentioned, an increase with children with exhibiting some behavioral issues. So we're working really hard on that, and some families that are in a different level of stress. And I think they held on and they got through the crisis, and now a lot of that, they're feeling safe, and some of that, those issues are coming to the forefront. And when I talk to my CEO colleagues, whether they're in housing or workforce development, we're all feeling like there's some intensity now with the families we're serving, and we attribute that to be probably COVID, just a lot of the stress from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine it. It's been a stressful time for everyone, especially people with children. I know kindergartners on Zoom. I've seen it in my family, and was just blown away by one, the initiative that these educators had to make sure these children are getting education. But at the same time, it is a struggle.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think with teachers and any professional, we talked about my background's clinical to start, and we talked about secondary trauma, mostly in the mental health field. And I don't know what I would call, I don't know if I would call it secondary trauma and all in the childcare industry, but we're really paying attention to the toll it's playing on teachers with the lack of staff, just like it is for every industry. While we pay particular attention is the obvious. So we're caring for little human beings and we're preparing them for life. So we can't automate, we can't do a lot of some things that others can do with it. And so the stress and burnout of teachers, we always paid attention to retention, but a lot of my colleagues are really saying like, oh gosh, we hope we don't have a mass exodus from the field. And it's really allowing us, here's the opportunity to be more creative with our own benefits. So I couldn't go out and preach Learn and Grow at work, our employer-sponsored childcare, and then not have that as a benefit for ourselves. So, scary times, but I believe it's making us all really unique and really paying attention, not just doing the engagement surveys to check it off for best places to work, but how are we really showing up differently for our staff that have been in their own period of crisis and uncertainty? So I think that's another stressor that we're experiencing, but glad to say that there's some good efforts in place.
Yeah. And you mentioned that learning grove at work. Tell me a little bit about that. I know you've mentioned it a few times throughout the chat.
Yes, none of that's good or bad. I think our business development person would be like, "Great, Shannon, you mentioned it." So we have done employer-sponsored childcare over the years for the IRS, for Toyota's Imagine Tomorrow, and then they moved out of town. So we've had great experience. We also do it with FEI in Cincinnati and the YWCA. I'm proud partners with all of them. So we said before this bill was passed, like, why not us? And it was during conversations at Grow, Pillar One, and with Brett and the Chamber. I thought I need to be ready when they say, like, what can Learn and Grow do to show up differently in this space? And so we put together a business plan, and really what Learn and Grow at Work is we can come and be a solution, and we can do it in partnership with EC Learn, who can set up a needs assessment, which could be a survey to people and their employees. And we say we can offer on-site childcare if you want to build it, or you can build it with other collaborative partners, or other, like a co-op model if you've got other businesses close by. And Northern Kentucky has a lot of that, right, side by side. Or we can have you have priority slots in some of our locations. So what I want the listeners to understand is, please don't go to write like, oh gosh, I don't have millions of dollars to build. Think about the House bill and think about what could we provide that we're not currently, to be a more family friendly or improve the work quality. And it could be on a whole continuum. We also have in-home childcare providers. So if people need different shift coverage, maybe it's just awareness. Maybe it's us coming to lunch and learns and sharing information about it. So it's a whole continuum that people can do. And they can contact, the information's on our website, or they can contact me for more information.
Okay, well, that sounds exciting. And then another kind of pivot, I want to talk about the event that you guys have coming up later this year. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, so we have a conference called Breakthroughs in Early Childhood. And many that have been around Northern Kentucky for a while might remember. So Learn and Grove is the culmination of two 40-year-old nonprofits that came together and formed a couple years ago, right before COVID happened. So Children Inc. and Cincinnati Early Learning Centers. And so Children Inc. used to have a conference that was on neuroscience brain research. And we said, it's time to do it again. I don't know if we were overly excited because of COVID or what have you, but we want to be thought leaders and we want to be good partners. And so we'll have that event. It's on November 2nd and 3rd at the Convention Center here in Northern Kentucky. And we have a great group of faculty from all over the United States that will come and talk about different topics related to neuroscience, constructivist, DEI work in the young child space. So we wanted everybody to know. The pricing and everything will be out as far as like registration in the next couple of months, but we're excited to offer it. We had really good turnout prior years, and we did it year over year. And I think that's just one way, again, that we want to show up and say, we've got some things that we've learned and worked on and we've collaborated with, and we want to make that available to the larger community. So yeah, so look for more details.
Yeah, and we will be sharing that out obviously when details come available because we love you guys and you guys are our very wonderful Grow NKY partners. But Shannon, before I let you go, is there anything else that you want to share with our podcast listeners or viewers that we haven't gotten to touch on yet?
No, I think, just if you could make everything we've touched on, make everybody aware of the House bill. If you're an employer, if you've got questions, just reach out, to a childcare provider. It doesn't even have to be us to try to navigate through. Mike Hammond's at our office is really versed in it. Sandy Woodall, great EC Learn partner, has additional information, and United Way does. So no, I would just want them to do that. And then I would appreciate the listeners knowing that in addition to Brent and the staff, we really feel like this region is lifting up childcare, being the workforce behind the workforce. I feel like the profession in my close to 30 years has been elevated and people are really seeing the importance of the work. So I just want to thank all of the partners, the community stakeholders, the chamber for acknowledging what the neuroscience research has told us all along and putting things in policy into practice. It's felt really good and supportive. And so I appreciate it. And I know my partners do as well.
Well, Shannon, thank you so much. I know that we will continue to work in that early childhood education space, do great work for our community in Northern Kentucky. Thanks in part to you all and the rest of your partners. But Shannon, thank you again. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Shannon Schumacher, Account Executive, Kentucky Market Leader. At Haran, we champion bold innovation to help employers and individuals thrive. As an industry thought leader, we explore new horizons in healthcare, benefits, employee engagement, and wellness. We work harder to deliver all the strategic benefits, planning, and execution you expect from a true partner. And we do it with laser focus on your short and long-term outcomes to help manage your benefits while improving your employee experience.
So Heartland is celebrating its 110th anniversary this year. Recently, we partnered with the Kinkle family and the Fisher family in Northern Kentucky, Boone, Kenton, and Campbell counties. And we have 3 offices there to serve the Northern Kentucky region. Just remember, when the economy heats up, come see us at Heartland Bank, where banking really feels good.
Come on over to Heartland, where banking feels good.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Shannon. I think it's really important to highlight all of the work that our Grow NKY partners are doing today to ensure that we have an effective workforce in the future. Thank you to our podcast sponsors, CVG, C-Crew Consulting, Haran, and Heartland Bank. Don't forget to visit nkychamber.com/events to learn more about all of our upcoming events. We have a ton this summer. You can also sign up for our newsletter. You will get an email once a week or more if you prefer to hear about all of our upcoming events, community awards, and more information from our incredible membership. Finally, if you are a member who would like to be featured on the podcast, or if you're not a member and would like to become a member of the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, please reach out to Lynn Aitwin. You can find her contact information in our staff directory at nkychamber.com or on the screen in front of you. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you're enjoying the weather, and I will talk to you guys next week.